now go live to Washington, D.C. at the White House, where President Joe Biden is hosting the White House Correspondents Association dinner, which is an annual celebration of the importance of the First Amendment. And you know, Chris Teagan actually gave a speech. Now let's listen in to President Joe Biden.
Anniversaries, holidays without them, the pain of living in limbo, in a sense, is almost worse than the pain of having lost a child and looking at an empty chair. The stress of not knowing, the sorrow of uncertainty. But I want them and their families to know, Jill and I understand, we see them. They are not forgotten. And I promise you, I am working like hell to get them home. As a nation, we'll never give up on hope. Things can get better. Things can turn. Things can change. Tonight, unlike last year, Brittany Griner's here with her wife, Cheryl. Brittany, where are you, kid? Stand up. Come on. I love this woman. Love you, Brittany. This time last year, we were praying for you, Brittany, hoping you knew how hard all of us were fighting for your release. It's great to have you home. And boys, I can hardly wait to see you back on the court, kid. Remember your promise, I get to bring my granddaughter, my all-state girl, to see you, right? Because of our unrelenting efforts, we've been able to bring home dozens of hostages and wrongful detainees from Afghanistan, Burma, Haiti, Iran, Rwanda, Venezuela, across West Africa, around the world. But we're doing everything we can to prevent these cases from occurring in the first place. For example, the State Department added the threat of detention as a new risk indicator to its travel advisories, to go along with the threat of kidnapping, to warn Americans where these threats are highest abroad. I also recently signed an executive order increasing the consequences for criminal groups and terrorists who engage in the appalling practice of treating human beings as bargaining chips, political pawns. Just 2 days ago, my administration announced the first sanctions under this new authority, punishing individuals in security services in Russia and Iran when part of the wrongful detention of Americans. Above all, across government, experts are working day and night to bring our fellow Americans home, much of which, as you well know, we can't talk about, concerned that it will backfire. But my commitment is to bring them home, just as I know your commitment is to continue to be in a free and fearless press. And that's what we honor tonight. This is not hyperbole. You make it possible. You make it possible for ordinary citizens to question authority, and yes, even to laugh at authority without fear or intimidation. That's what makes this nation strong. So tonight, let us show ourselves and the world our strength, not just by the example of our power, but by the power of our example. Folks, I know a lot's changed in the press. I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of you. This is not your father's press from 20 years ago. No, I'm serious, and you all know it better than I do. But still, it is absolutely consequential and essential. After all, I believe in the First Amendment, not just because my good friend Jimmy Madison wrote it. Look, in a lot of ways, this dinner sums up my first 2 years in office. I'll talk for 10 minutes, take 0 questions, and cheerfully walk away. Yeah, I know. I just announced my re-election campaign. Some of you Some of you scooped that I'd announced in the video. But really, you really all thought in your heart that I just blurted out, didn't you?
We tried.
And look, I get that age is completely a reasonable issue. It's on everybody's mind. And everyone, by everyone I mean the New York Times. Headline, Biden's advanced age is a big issue. Trump's, however, is not. Sorry, that was a New York Times pitch spot. I apologize. I love that guy. I should do an interview with him. You might think I don't like Rupert Murdoch. That's simply not true. How could I dislike a guy who makes me look like Harry Styles? Call me old.
That is President Joe Biden live in Washington, D.C. at the White House, at the White House Correspondents Dinner, marking his first time as a black-tie gathering in Washington since he announced the launch of his re-election campaign earlier this week. The annual dinner, hosted inside the Washington Hilton, drew thousands of guests in support of freedom of the press. The event raises funds for the White House Correspondents Association Scholarship Fund and offers a rare opportunity for journalists and politicians to rub elbows and shoulders, but also features remarks from a comedian often tasked with walking a fine line between gentle reading and legitimate criticism. So this is live in Washington, D.C. at the White House.
It's either you're drunk or Marjorie Taylor Greene.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.